The MLS over the years has had a very, let's say, mixed reputation around the world, whether it be at home in the United States or abroad, especially over in Europe, on what people think of the league, what people think of the clubs, and the players that are within the league. Well, there is one club, a brand new club actually, St. Louis City SC, that is completely flipping the script and making everyone think twice about what they see as the MLS and the future of the MLS. Now today I'm going to be covering what is so far the story of St. Louis City. They are a brand new expansion club within the MLS. Took them 4 different times, that's right, 4 times to finally get their chance at having a club in the wonderful city of St. Louis, my hometown. Actually, as you guys can see right here, I am a St. Louis City SC supporter. Now, I'm not going to try and show too much bias. Yes, I think what we are doing is absolutely incredible, and it hasn't been done before by any MLS expansion club, being that we set a record that I will eventually get into here in today's video. But I'm going to be kind of bringing to you guys the story of what has happened so far and what could potentially happen in the future with this club. So if you guys happen to enjoy today's video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is 100% free, so why not hit that sub button? Without further ado, let's get into everything. So starting things off way back in the day here in the United States, St. Louis actually founded the very first professional league within the United States. It ran from 1907 to 1939. I believe it was along the lines of something being called like the St. Louis Professional Soccer League, but they had the first professional league within the United States, and that led to major talent coming out of St. Louis. And funnily enough, when it came to the 1950 World Cup, the United States faced off against England in a match that would go down in history, where the United States would beat England 1-0. And what is funny about that U.S. men's national team side, 5 of the starting 11 were from St. Louis, and 6 players out of the entire team that was brought to that World Cup were from St. Louis. So St. Louis has always had a history of being a soccer city and producing solid talent, which has led it to be called the soccer capital of the United States, which there's a certain city that is quite upset about that right now and is one of our biggest rivals. But the production of U.S. national team members has continued throughout the years, throughout the decades, and it's not just the men's national team, it's also the women's. For those who are into the women's side of the game, Becky Sauerbrunn is a 2-time World Cup winner and an Olympic gold medalist from, you guessed it, St. Louis. Another one from the women's game is Miss Lori Chalupny, who, once again, World Cup winner, Olympic gold medalist, and is now the current coach at Maryville University, which is a local university in St. Louis. It's also produced the likes of Taylor Twellman, who is a 3-time MLS MVP, Brad Davis, who played for SLU University and is the 6th most MLS capped player ever, Tim Ream of Fulham, who was playing at Qatar in the World Cup this previous winter. Same thing with Josh Sargent. He is also from the St. Louis area, as he is the Norwich City striker and once again was at the World Cup in Qatar this past winter. But it's also produced players like Pat McBride, who is an icon in American sports and especially St. Louis sports, playing for not only SLU High School but SLU University, the U.S. men's national team, and is in the U.S. National Soccer Hall of Fame. It also produced the likes of Mr. Al Trost, the former captain of the U.S. men's national team way back when, also the original Captain America before, you guessed it, Christian Pulisic was nicknamed Captain America, and also, funny enough, was my teacher in high school, which was absolutely awesome. But also, it produced the likes of Frank Borghi, who was a goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team, is part of the U.S. men's national team Hall of Fame, and is also a war hero who stormed the beaches of D-Day and also was at the Battle of the Bulge. So SLU Soccer is a big component for producing talents within St. Louis, and they have produced plenty of players that I just spoke of, such as Pat McBride. And I mean, SLU Soccer, they are nothing to sneeze at, as they are one of the best overall schools for soccer within the United States, as they have won 10 NCAA championships in total. And St. Louis has been home to multiple different soccer clubs as well throughout the years. And for those of you that are getting triggered by me saying the word soccer, I understand it is football. I actually prefer to call it football. Here in the United States, we do call it soccer. But they had clubs like the St. Louis Stars and the NASL, the St. Louis Steamers, which was a indoor soccer league team, which if you have not seen indoor soccer before, it's like hockey, but soccer. It's awesome. Then you also have the St. Louis Ambush and St. Louis FC, which had to fold due to the same ownership group being the ones that founded St. Louis City SC. So like I said earlier, took 4 different attempts to get a MLS club here to St. Louis. And it started as early as 2008-2009, which from the inception of the MLS, they wanted to have a club here in St. Louis, but it really never came to fruition until 2008-2009 when we had our first bid. However, that first bid failed as there wasn't enough financial backing, and Don Garber, the commissioner of the MLS, didn't think that it was the right time to bring a club to St. Louis. Given that we did try again in 2014-2015 with another bid that coincided with the St. Louis Rams, an NFL franchise here in the United States, getting a brand new stadium, but guess what? They ended up moving to LA because Stan Kroenke likes money and is the #1 enemy in St. Louis. But he also owns, I believe, 60% of Arsenal. So do with that what you will. But the third push came in 2017, which a lot of people thought that we were going to get it then. However, a majority of the financing for the stadium would have been from the taxpayers, and the taxpayers of the city did not want to go through with it. So there you go. Strike 3, you're out. However, there was a 4th bid, a 4th one, and that was in 2018-2019, which was led by Caroline Kendall Betts, who is a part of the Enterprise family, which is a rent-a-car thing here in St. Louis, local business. And they decided, you know what? We're going to fully fund this. And everyone was like, okay, yeah, absolutely, awesome. But the thing was, we were also up against a club in Sacramento and the USL, which, in my personal opinion, if there is another expansion team, which there probably will be since we're sitting on 29, I hope Sacramento gets it. But we ended up beating out Sacramento and getting the 29th club in MLS franchise history. Now, what is nice about St. Louis SC is that it is about the city, and they wanted to make sure that the stadium was as close to the heart of downtown as possible. And it most definitely is, as it is built basically right across the street from the historic Union Station, which, I mean, having it next to something that historic here is absolutely incredible, because that was a central hub in the United States for transportation for a long, long time. And I mean, with having, I think it's around 4 or 5 different pubs around the stadium, it is jumping every single match day. Now, while the stadium, which is City Park, was being built, we got to work on assembling our staff and our roster. And one of the first people that we brought in was our director of football. You heard that right. We do it differently here in St. Louis. It isn't the normal American style of, oh, we have a general manager and then we have a coach. We have a director of football and we have a manager. We're going about things the European way, which I will get into in a moment. Our director of football that we brought in was Lutz Pfannenstiel, who used to be the director of football at 1899 Hoffenheim over in Germany. Also used to be an ex-player. He also has a book highlighting a very crazy life that has somehow landed him here in St. Louis, which he absolutely loves being here. And the side that him and our manager, Mr. Bradley Carnell, have assembled are absolutely phenomenal. And speaking of Bradley Carnell, he used to be a South African international who is been kind of everywhere. He played in Germany, played in South Africa, obviously, but why did we want these two guys, Mr. Lutz Pfannenstiel and Mr. Bradley Carnell? Well, they go hand in hand because they have the same philosophy on football, aka soccer. They want a heavy metal football style, which is gegenpressing, which was kind of perfected or at least adapted by one of their good friends, Ralf Rangnick, who used to head up RB Leipzig as their director of football and also was the manager for a short time at Manchester United. He now finds himself managing the Austrian national team. But while Ralf Rangnick was at Manchester United, Bradley Carnell almost actually went there to be his assistant manager, but instead decided, you know what, I'm going to take the reins of St. Louis City, and here we are today with them doing absolute magic. But they wanted to do a gegenpressing style. They wanted to play that Red Bull style of football, and they kind of modeled it, honestly, I feel a little bit, off of the club behind me on the wall, Liverpool, with how Jurgen Klopp plays. It reminds me a lot of how his sides have played and a lot of how traditional German sides are playing. And it is a lot of fun to watch, and a lot of MLS clubs do not know how to deal with it right now. Now, another staff member that was brought in was Mr. John Hackworth, who would head up the second team for their inaugural season, because we did have our second team playing before our main team did, as MLS Next was a kind of brand new concept that would allow basically all MLS franchises to have their second teams, plus a couple other USL teams to come in to the league and play and basically showcase their best talents and try and get the moves and, you know, better their development. And Mr. John Hackworth came in and did absolute magic, getting them to the final in their inaugural season against the Columbus Crew, where they eventually lost. But Mr. John Hackworth may actually be familiar to some of you. That's because he managed the Philadelphia Union in 2014, I believe it was, and he also has managed the U17s of the U.S. men's national team as well, coaching players like Josh Sargent. So clearly we knew what we were doing as a club. Building it from scratch, from the ground up, in 11 months' time was kind of crazy with how well it went and how it is going. Because a majority of clubs kind of wait until the expansion draft to, you know, sort of make any kind of moves towards their roster and all that. Obviously, they'll have a coach and director of football in place and whatnot. But we were planning months in advance, and we had players here months in advance. I'm talking 6 months in advance before they would even play a friendly against Bayer Leverkusen, which, fortunately enough, I was able to attend and see some of these players in action. Now, some of those players are Roman Bürki, the former goalkeeper of Borussia Dortmund, Eduard Lewin, who was a former midfielder of Hertha Berlin over in the Bundesliga, Joao Klaus, formerly of 1899 Hoffenheim, Joachim Nilsson of Arminia Bielefeld, Samir Pedro of Sarajevo in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Thomas Ostrak of FC Cologne. Now, not all these players are household names. Probably the only one that you guys will recognize is Roman Bürki for his time at Borussia Dortmund. But overall, these guys have made a massive, massive impact, and some of those guys made an impact on the STLSC2 side. Those two main players for that side being Samir Pedro and Thomas Ostrak. But as you guys could probably tell from the clubs I listed off that they're from, we have a major German influence, and that definitely comes from Lutz Pfannenstiel being German, having played in Germany, and having German connections, and Bradley Carnell also having those German connections and playing in Germany. And the philosophy that they were going with, all these players will understand. And what is also pretty cool is that the model that the club is kind of going off of is modeling clubs such as RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen, Manchester City. But the third reason why we have such a German connection is because there is major German heritage within the city. And I mean, I'm not sure everyone knows this, but one of the most popular beer companies in the world, a German beer founded company, was founded here in St. Louis. That's Anheuser-Busch, the makers of Budweiser. So major German heritage here in St. Louis. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this club was kind of all about the city. And I mean, here in the badge, you can see the arch, the gateway to the west, and the crest. So, I mean, everything about the club is focused on the city. And that led to the main jersey sponsor right here, Purina, being one of the founding partners of the club. Also, BJC Healthcare, which is on the sleeve. And then we also have Together Credit Union, which is a local banking establishment here within the city of St. Louis. So everything is focused on city. Everything is for the city. Now, the first time anyone got to go in City Park was when we played against Bayer Leverkusen, a side that at the time was just knocked out of the Champions League, but luckily enough for them under Xabi Alonso, they were still in the Europa League. And they came here to play our second team. Being that, I mean, we didn't have our expansion draft done. We didn't have everyone here yet. But we did get to see some of those players like Edward Lewin, Roman Berkey, Thomas Ostrak. All of them, we got to see them play and see what they're going to have to offer. Unfortunately, we got smacked 3-0. Which led a lot of people to believe that there wasn't going to be too much to be expected out of this side, but that was media-wise. The city was just happy that we finally had a team. Now, the expansion draft took place in December, where we landed players like Nico Gioacchini, Indiana Vasilev, Jonathan Bell, John Nelson, and Tim Parker. All of them having great experience. Mr. Nico Gioacchini is actually a U.S. men's national team player. Indiana Vasilev played for 2 seasons for Inter Miami and also was a product of Aston Villa. Jonathan Bell coming from the New England Revolution, which is a historic club within the MLS, and former club of earlier spoken about Taylor Twellman. John Nelson from FC Cincinnati, and Tim Parker, who used to be a U.S. men's national team player and is a MLS vet that we acquired in a trade from the Houston Dynamo. So now with the expansion draft being done, we're getting closer and closer to getting things underway. Preseason was completed, everything was looking good, honky-dory, and Roman Berkey and Tim Parker were named the captain and vice captain for the club going into the inaugural season. We also signed our first homegrown player in Miguel Perez, who's 17 years old and from local high school Pattonville here in St. Louis. And funnily enough, with how he's performed so far in the league, he earned himself a call-up to the U19 national team for the United States. But now getting into the story so far, that's all the build-up. How have they actually done with the MLS season so far? Well, going into it, everyone in the media, every journalist, every pundit, all of them, projected St. Louis City to finish rock bottom and basically get 4 wins on the season and not do anything because of what they saw them do against a club that was competing in the Champions League and the Europa League. But also because they didn't have the greatest preseason and people thought, oh, they don't have MLS vets, many of them, being that basically our only one was Tim Parker at the time, and they're a brand new team. What are they going to do? They're not going to do a whole heck of a lot, so they're going to finish rock bottom, right? They were very wrong. The first match that St. Louis City had was against Matthew McConaughey's Austin FC, who also had the MLS MVP frontrunner on their side. Now, Sebastian Driussi and company are a very, very good side. Austin FC are a very good club. But that night in Austin, St. Louis City showed up, and they showed up big time, winning 3-2, winning their first match in franchise history, and kind of starting to silence a lot of their critics because they beat a team that a lot of people thought could go all the way and win the whole darn thing this year in the MLS, or at least win something and have their main player, Sebastian Driussi, win the MVP. Well, Tim Parker put us on the board early, and then Joao Klaus ended up securing the W for us. And everyone was saying, just beginner's luck. But our next match was at home, where we played Charlotte FC, who is a newer club to the MLS and not one of those sides that is, gonna challenge the big dogs of like LAFC, Portland Timbers, the likes of them. And everyone still thought, all right, Charlotte's gonna go into St. Louis, give them a hard time, and beat them. Well, Come to find out, the entire city was behind STLSC, and they ended up beating them 3-1 with Miguel Perez getting to play in front of his hometown crowd, which, by the way, Miguel Perez also played against Austin FC at just 17 years of age. With being 2-0, it's still just beginner's luck, correct? Well, now this time they had to go to Portland to play the Portland Timbers, and that is without a doubt one of the best clubs in MLS history. They have a very rich history. Yes, they don't win a whole heck of a lot of silverware, but they do a lot of winning, and it is very hard to win in Portland. And we definitely had a hard time in Portland, being that we did not score the winner until the 86th minute, winning 2-1. And that put us a win away from being the first expansion club ever to go 4-0, which the club that we were trying to top was none other than one of the best MLS clubs ever, the Seattle Sounders. So the next game was at home against another historic MLS club and the San Jose Earthquakes. And we kind of came out and dominated from the word go. From the very first whistle, we just dominated. And we won 3-0, securing that MLS record, going 4-0, which surely this is no longer beginner's luck. The side know what they're doing. They play for each other. They have a vision, and everyone is bought into the system. It's total team football. Now, after that San Jose game and us starting 4-0, we had to go to Salt Lake City, which is not an easy place to go due to the elevation, and Real Salt Lake has a great fan base as well, so they were going to make their voices heard. And also, funnily enough, in 08-09, that original bid for St. Louis to get an MLS club, it would have been Real Salt Lake moving to St. Louis, which, as we can tell, fell through, but kind of funny that they would play each other in the first 5 matches in STLSC history. And being that it was going to be a very tough situation to play in, Real Salt Lake had an advantage. They had 2 weeks to prepare as they had a bye, which through the first half, it was 0-0. No one could really do anything, and to be honest, we were being outplayed. But then at halftime, Bradley Carnell took the side in, kind of had a hoorah speech, I'm guessing, and then we proceeded to score 4 goals in the second half and win 4-0, securing back-to-back clean sheets. This is no longer beginner's luck. This is just a good, solid squad. STLSC also isn't just that expansion club or that other MLS side there in America. They are starting to make a name for themselves because they're winning in ways that a majority of MLS teams haven't been able to. And that's because they're not playing the MLS way. They're playing the European way. And they're modeling themselves off of European clubs. Basically, almost everyone that is making major impacts has played over in Europe. I think the one player that is having a major impact here that has mainly played in the States his entire career is Tim Parker. But Roman Berkey, Joao Klaus, Edouard Lewin, they are all from the German league, and they are all absolutely dominating. Everyone is doing their job. Yes, obviously Joao Klaus is the main man scoring right now, but Nico Gioacchini is also coming into his own as he is a younger player and he is getting used to the system, but he is showing, especially these past 2 games against San Jose and against Real Salt Lake, that he has what it takes to be a top player for this club. Edouard Lewin, our main playmaker, is showing that he is probably one of the best midfielders within the MLS. When I personally heard that we were getting Roman Berkey, I couldn't believe it because immediately in my head I thought, we just got the best goalkeeper in the MLS for absolutely nothing. And people were basically writing us off saying we wouldn't do anything. We're now 5 games in, haven't lost yet, which hopefully that continues. Someone knock on wood for me. And we are not only top of the Western Conference, but top of the entire league on 15 points. Yes, it's early. I understand that. But this side is showing signs of being a team that, if you doubt us, we're fine playing that underdog type mentality. This is St. Louis SC mentality. This is St. Louis mentality in general. We're fine playing the underdog. We've done it many times before. And STLSC is proving to people, do not sleep on them. Well, the story obviously still continues for STLSC. It's early on in their franchise history, but it has been an absolutely fantastic start, and a club taking the MLS by storm, which I think a lot of clubs are going to start looking at themselves. How do we model ourselves off of this club that is making everything work? Everything is coming up right for this club right now. So it is very, very fun to watch. It's fun to see, which, speaking of being able to watch it and see it, you can see it in 108 different countries on Apple TV. So if you want to follow along with the St. Louis SC story and watch it live every weekend, you are most definitely able to do so with Apple TV. But with that being said, if you guys happen to enjoy today's video on St. Louis City, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you've caught any of these matches of STLSC. Let me know what you guys think of the roster, what you think of the club so far, where you think they can go, not only now, but in the future as well, because honestly, I think in the future, they will have a trophy to their name in the first 5 seasons. I don't know what it will be, but it will be something. I 100% believe in that. Because from the get-go, I believed that we could make playoffs when no one else believed. That's all you got to do sometimes. Just believe in your side. And that is what they are doing and why it is such a great story. So like I said previously, if you guys happen to enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is 100% free, so I hit that sub button. And until next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.